efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Cycling in London is not child's play. How to be a better cyclist? Listen to my show, only on Relaks Radio. I'm Kevin. Join me every Thursday, 5 p.m. Look forward to seeing you.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and you're tuned into the sunrise with me because I'm here to give you company all the way until 9 a.m. All right. So don't forget to stay here. Don't forget to share your thoughts, share your opinions, and your ideas with me because obviously I would love to hear whatever it is that you have to say. All right. So don't forget to do that. Now, if you want to get in touch with me and you want to share your thoughts and your opinions with me, well, that is in fact a way for you to do it. All you need to do is just text me on 078 text me, call me, share your thoughts with me because obviously I would love to hear whatever it is that you are saying. All right, whatever it is that you have to share with me, I would absolutely love to hear all of it. So don't forget to do that. Now, before we actually get into our conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact go follow us on our socials. You can go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and also subscribe to us on YouTube. That way you can actually make sure that you're always informed, you're always updated, and you're always a part of the conversation. All right, because that's what we want for you right here at Relax Radio, where it's all about the positives and no negatives. So don't forget to do that. Now, also I want to very quickly remind you that our app is available for free on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So you can actually make sure that you download the app, you share your thoughts, you share your opinions with me because I would love to hear whatever it is that you have to say. So don't forget to do that. Now, I want to very quickly get back into the conversation because we have to talk about the wider impacts of COVID-19 or wider impacts of the pandemic on, wide impacts of the pandemic on the National Health Service. All right. And the reason we actually have to talk about it is because it has caused a lot of change, right? It has caused it has caused the NHS to make so many adjustments and whatnot, which has in fact created it resulted in a lot of costs for them, right? Which is why they want to make sure that they have a better budgetary not contribution, but rather a specific amount for them to use for these extra costs that they had to bear because of the pandemic. Now, like I said, the coronavirus pandemic has actually had huge impacts on the National Health Service, right? Now, patients who have been suffering from COVID-19 have placed unprecedented demands on acute care, particularly on the intensive care units, right? And obviously, the reason I'm telling you that is because it's really, really true. Because, so many COVID-19 patients have needed the intensive care units. They've actually placed a lot of burden on the NHS to provide them with the kind of, to provide them with the ICUs, with the beds, and that has resulted in a lot of other patients not necessarily getting what they need to get, getting the care that they need to get, and getting the operations that they needed to get because of the pandemic. All right. So, like I said, because this happened, this has actually led to an effort to dramatically increase the resources that are available to the NHS hospitals, right? But the truth is, even if that was the case, even if you still imported, or rather, yeah, if you still even if you still imported necessary medical items, even if you still got the necessary medical items that you wanted, that would have still meant that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to to address that rising demand, right? Because at the end of the day, resources are limited and there's only so much that you can import as well. Because it's not just a pandemic here in the United Kingdom, it's a worldwide, I mean, it's a global pandemic, right? So all of these other nations, all of these other countries, they also have equal, demands. They also have equal requirements that they need to actually make sure that they can deal with the pandemic in their countries as well. All right. So because they've tried to dramatically increase these resources, and they're actually trying to do so right now, this has actually led or resulted in a reorganization of hospital facilities, redeployment of existing staff, and a drive to bring in those who were recently retired and even newly graduated staff to fight the pandemic. All right. So that has actually, this is what, I was telling you earlier as well. This has actually resulted in a lot of other people who, a lot of other people who either retired from their jobs, or people who were new graduates having to come to the to the health service to actually help with the pandemic, right? Which has then, if you actually think about it, that actually results in a reduction in the quality of care, right? And I'm just talking about, I'm talking about this in the perspective of newly graduated staff, right? Because, and also, even if we were to, disregard the newly graduated staff, we need to keep in mind that a lot of these doctors, they specialize in different things, right? So if you're actually going to take all of these resources, if you're going to take these doctors, say doctors who treat cancer, or doctors who treat who are specialized with regard to your brain or whatnot, and then you try to sort of make sure that they help COVID patients, what that is essentially going to mean is that they're not going to do that job the same way that someone who's qualified to deal with the virus is, right? Because that specific set of doctors, that specific set of nurses, that specialized in doing one thing. So that has also resulted in care, in the quality of care being reduced, right? So we have a lot more left to talk. So until then, make sure you stay tuned, because right now we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to keep talking more about this. But until then, obviously, make sure that you stay tuned, because I would love to hear, your thoughts and your opinions on this. Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now you're tuned into the sunrise, and I'm super excited to be here on this beautiful Monday morning to be sharing, these thoughts and opinions with you with regard to, the very latest that happens, not just here in the United Kingdom, but in fact all over the entire world as well. All right. So don't forget to, share your thoughts with me. Don't forget to share your opinions with me because I would love to hear whatever it is that you have to say with regard to whatever we are talking about. So don't forget to do that. All right. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, well, you can. All you need to do is just text me on 07852473473. Share your thoughts with me, share your opinions with me, because obviously I would love to hear whatever it is that you have to say with regard to the topic, right? Now, before we actually head back into our discussion, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, go follow us on our socials. That way you can make sure that you're always informed and you're always updated about the very latest, all right? So go follow us on Facebook, go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and even subscribe to us on our YouTube, because that way you can actually make sure that you're always tuned into the conversation and you're letting me know your thoughts and opinions on this as well. Okay, and don't forget to download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store as well. That way, you can actually make sure that you are contributing to this conversation live, you're joining this conversation live, and you're letting me know your thoughts and your opinions, all right? Because we care about your thoughts, we care about your opinions right here on Relax Radio. Now, I want to very quickly get into the conversation because we're talking about the wide impacts of the pandemic here in the United Kingdom with regard to the National Health Service, right? So, like I said, to deal with all these coronavirus cases, the amount of resources that were available for non coronavirus patients have actually been reduced, right? And even though there's no real time publicly available data right now to sort of precisely pinpoint and quantify how much and when this has started and how much of resources that they were going to use for other patients were actually given to coronavirus patients, even though that's not there, we know that a lot of resources and a lot of care that was supposed to be given to other patients were in fact now given to people who had COVID-19. Now, NHS England actually announced in March its intention to free up around 30,000 of its 100,000 general and acute hospital beds, right? And so far, they did manage to do this, and around half of this was actually achieved through urgent patient discharge of patients who are actually medically fit to leave, right? So if they were medically fit to leave, then they were immediately discharged because they wanted to create as much space as possible with regard to with regard to creating a lot of space, with regard to creating a lot of you know space and giving resources to all of these patients who had COVID-19. All right. And the other half of it, they actually figured that out by postponing all non-urgent elective operations. Right now, the scale of the current pandemic is actually quite bad right now, because even though England is dealing with it okay-ish, it doesn't mean that around the rest of the world it's that great, right? A lot of other countries are facing their fourth waves. Things are getting really bad. So what you need to keep in mind is that the scale of the current pandemic means that the eventual number of cancelled or delayed procedures is in fact likely to be considerably higher this time around, but next year, right? And with the number of affected patients potentially running into the hundreds of thousands, it actually means that these waiting lists are going to get longer. People are going to have to postpone their surgeries, and with the way the things seem to be happening right now, it's a long stretch to say that things would actually be okay. All right, because ultimately at the end of the day, we have to face the truth, and we need to come to terms with the fact that these waiting lists are going to be long, people are going to be suffering, and that a lot of the resources that we have here isn't necessarily enough to deal with the pandemic that is happening in this scale. All right. Now, something else that I really, really need to talk about is how the United Kingdom does in fact have a lower average of doctors in comparison to all of the other doctors that are there in other European countries to actually deal with patients, right? And the reason I'm actually telling you this is because here in the United Kingdom, you know, based on 1,000 patients, you basically have about 2.8 doctors per 1,000 patients, whereas the EU 15 average of whereas you have the EU 15 average, which is about 3.9 per 1,000 patients. So this was all the way back in 2015, right? And with so many people, you know, going for retirement, and even with the newly graduated staff, they don't, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can in any way try and make the situation much better, right? So it's always important to keep that in mind. It's always important for you to understand that as well, and essentially try and deal with the problem through that. Okay, so that is it for the conversation on dealing with coronavirus, dealing with the pandemic here in the United Kingdom, and how the NHS might actually be on the verge of collapse if we don't address this problem. However, don't worry, because I will be back here in a few minutes to keep talking to you about, you know, climate change, everything that you need to know about climate change, because that is a very important conversation as well. So don't forget to do that. But I will be back in a few minutes. So until then, make